You've been through things that most people wouldn't believe, the kind of pain, betrayal, and struggle that makes others crumble. But somehow you're still here. You've survived, even when everything seemed to be working against you. And here's what you may not fully realize yet. Your story isn't just a series of unfortunate events. It's a setup, a divine plan that's leading you to something greater. Nothing that happened to you was an accident. Every tear, every loss, every moment of feeling unseen and unheard was shaping you for something bigger than you can imagine. Some people go through life without ever understanding why they were put on this earth. But you were born with a calling, whether you see it yet or not. That's why your journey has been so different from everyone else's. What was done to you wasn't fair. The way people treated you, the way life seemed to push you into impossible situations, it felt cruel. It felt like you were being punished for something you didn't do. But that's not what was happening. The universe or God, or whatever name you use for the higher power guiding your life, wasn't trying to destroy you. It was preparing you. Because when the time comes for you to step into your true power, the world won't be able to ignore it. You may not feel special right now. You may still be dealing with the wounds of your past, wondering if you'll ever fully heal. But make no mistake. The very thing that tried to break you is the thing that will make you unforgettable. Your story is bigger than you think. And when the world finally hears it, everything will change. If everything in your life had been easy, you would have never discovered how strong you really are. Comfort doesn't create warriors. Struggles do. Think about it. Have you ever met someone truly powerful, truly wise, who hasn't gone through something that tested them? Of course not, because wisdom, strength, and resilience don't come from ease. They come from fire. You may have wondered why your life has been so much harder than others, why you had to endure things that people around you never seemed to face. It wasn't a coincidence. The level of hardship you experienced wasn't random. It was a design, a process. You were being refined, shaped, strengthened. It's easy to look at your struggles and think they were meant to destroy you. That life was just cruel and unfair. But what if instead of being a curse, those struggles were actually gifts in disguise? What if they were the very things you needed to become the person you were meant to be? Imagine if you had never been betrayed, never been hurt, never faced rejection. You wouldn't have the same depth of understanding. You wouldn't recognize the true nature of people. You wouldn't have the wisdom to see through lies, the strength to stand alone, or the heart to help others who are struggling. Every hardship you faced has built you into someone who is unshakable. Most people avoid pain at all costs. They run from it, hide from it, do everything they can to escape it. But you didn't have that option. You were thrown into the fire, forced to fight, forced to grow. And because of that, you've become someone with a level of resilience that few people ever develop. What was done to you was not okay. The pain you went through wasn't fair. But in the grand design of your life, it was necessary. Without it, you wouldn't have the strength, the wisdom, or the fire that's inside you now. The very thing that caused you pain is the thing that's setting you apart from the rest of the world. And when the time comes, you'll see why it had to happen. From the very beginning, you were different. Even as a child, you may have felt like you didn't quite fit in, like you saw things differently than the people around you. Maybe you were more sensitive, more observant, or just had a feeling that you were meant for something more. But instead of being celebrated for your uniqueness, you were often misunderstood. People may have labeled you as strange, difficult, or too deep. Maybe they laughed at your dreams, dismissed your thoughts, or made you feel like you had to shrink yourself to be accepted. But deep down, you always knew there was something about you that set you apart. And you were right. The truth is, not everyone is meant to understand you. That's because you weren't born to live an ordinary life. You weren't meant to follow the crowd, to blend in, or to settle for a life that doesn't match the fire inside you. The reason you've always felt different is because you are different. You were chosen for something greater. Think about how many times you've been underestimated. How many times people thought they had you all figured out, only to be shocked when you proved them wrong. There's a reason people have overlooked you, doubted you, and even tried to push you down. It's because they can't see the full picture of who you are. They see the surface, but they don't understand what's underneath. Some of the most powerful people in history started out as the ones no one believed in, the ones who were counted out, rejected, and ignored. But when their time came, they rose, and the world had no choice but to notice. That's your story. 2. You may feel like you're in the background right now, like your life isn't moving as fast as you'd hoped. But understand this, your time is coming. The things that make you different are not weaknesses. They are your greatest strengths. And when the moment is right, you will step into the purpose you were born for. And the world will never be the same. It felt personal. The way they treated you. The way they ignored your pain, used your kindness, and walked away without a second thought. The way people you trusted the most turned out to be the ones who hurt you the deepest. It felt like an attack against you as a person. But here's the truth. It was never about you. It was about what you carry. There's something inside you that made people react the way they did. A power, a light, an energy that most can't understand. Some people saw it and admired it. Others saw it and feared it. And fear makes people do ugly things. Instead of celebrating what makes you different, they tried to break it. Instead of supporting you, they tried to dim your light, not because you were weak, but because you were powerful. Think about it. How many times have you been treated unfairly, not because you did something wrong, but simply because of who you are? How many times have people tried to take advantage of you, not because you were naive, but because they sensed something rare in you? This is not a coincidence. When you carry something special, it triggers something in others. Some people will be drawn to it. Others will feel threatened by it. But either way, you will never go unnoticed. Your presence alone can make people uncomfortable, even when you've done nothing to them. That's because you remind them of something they don't have. Maybe it's strength. Maybe it's resilience. Maybe it's the ability to keep going when life tries to crush you. Whatever it is, they see it even if they don't understand it. And instead of being inspired, some people would rather tear you down. You need to know this. What they did to you was not a reflection of your worth. It was a reflection of their own fears, their own insecurities, their own inability to handle what you represent. The good news, they didn't succeed. You're still here. And their actions, no matter how cruel, could never take away what was meant for you. There were moments when you felt completely alone, when it seemed like no one truly understood you, when friends drifted away, relationships crumbled, and you found yourself standing in a place of solitude, wondering why. You may have asked yourself, why do I always feel like I don't belong? Why do people leave? Why do I always end up on my own? But what if your isolation wasn't a punishment? What if it was a setup for something greater? Chosen ones are always set apart. Always. Look at history. Look at the people who changed the world. They all had seasons of loneliness, seasons where they had to walk alone, where they had to find their own way, where they had to learn who they really were without the noise of the world telling them who to be. That's what's happening to you. The people who left were meant to leave. The things that fell apart were meant to fall apart. Because if they had stayed, they would have kept you from growing into the person you are meant to become. You weren't abandoned. You were being positioned. You weren't rejected. You were being protected. It's hard to see it when you're in the middle of it, when the loneliness feels heavy and the silence is deafening. But one day, you'll look back and understand. You'll see that your isolation was actually your preparation. It was in those quiet moments that you built the strength, the wisdom, and the clarity that will take you to the next level. The universe had to remove certain people from your life because they couldn't go where you're going. If they had stayed, they would have held you back. If you had stayed in the wrong environment, you would have never discovered your true potential. Isolation wasn't your enemy. It was your training ground. And when the time is right, you will step out of this season stronger, wiser, and ready for the path ahead. You will look around and realize that everything that happened, every goodbye, every disappointment, every lonely night was making room for something better. One day, the same people who hurt you, underestimated you, and walked away from you will hear your name in places they never expected. The same people who made you feel invisible will see you shining in a way they can't ignore. the pain they caused. The struggles you endured, the battles you fought alone, they are all part of your story, and that story is going to reach further than you ever imagined. Think about it. Every person who has ever made an impact on the world had a story filled with pain. They had struggles that made them who they are. They had people who doubted them, who betrayed them, who tried to stop them. And yet, those struggles became the very thing that elevated them. That's exactly what's happening to you. The world loves a comeback story. The world loves to see someone rise from the ashes, to see someone who was counted out become someone who can't be ignored. And that's you. Right now, you may not see it. Right now, you may still be in the middle of the battle. But one day, the things that broke you will be the things that make you legendary. People will want to know how you survived, how you kept going when everything was against you, how you turned your pain into power. And when they hear your story, it will inspire them. It will change them. It will remind them that they too can rise. The people who hurt you, they won't know what to say. They'll act like they always believed in you. They'll pretend they supported you all along. But you will remember the truth. And you won't need revenge because success will speak for itself. Your story is bigger than you think. Your pain was never wasted. It was setting you up for something that will leave a mark on the world. Keep going. The very things that tried to break you will be the things that make you unforgettable. You don't have to try. You don't have to demand attention or prove yourself to anyone. The moment you step into a room, people feel something. They might not be able to explain it, but they sense it. Some people are drawn to it, others are intimidated by it. But one thing is certain, you can never go unnoticed. It's not about how you look, how you dress, or how loudly you speak. It's something deeper, a presence, an energy, a silent power that speaks louder than words. People recognize it, even if they don't understand it. That's why some react the way they do around you. They sense something rare, something different. You may have noticed that people either deeply respect you or feel uncomfortable in your presence. That's because they can see something in you, something strong, something unshakable. Some people admire it, others fear it. But what they can't do is ignore it. This is why people have tried to put you down. This is why they have dismissed you, doubted you, and tried to push you aside. Not because you lack value, but because your presence reminds them of something they don't have: confidence, purpose, power. The truth is, the ones who try to undermine you are often the ones who feel the weakest inside. Your strength shines a light on their insecurities, and instead of being inspired, they lash out. They try to make you feel small because they can't handle how big your energy is. But here's the secret: you don't need to change. You don't need to shrink yourself to make others comfortable. You were given this presence for a reason, and when the right people come into your life, they won't be intimidated by it. They'll respect it, they'll recognize it, and they'll stand beside you, knowing that your energy isn't something to be feared, it's something to be honored. Mark these words. One day, the people who broke you will act like they never did. They will act like they always supported you, always believed in you, always had your back. But you'll remember the nights you cried, the moments you felt abandoned, the times you had to pick yourself up with no one there to help you. When your success becomes undeniable, when your story is known by the world, these same people will come back. They'll smile, they'll congratulate you, they'll pretend they were part of the journey, and they will hope you don't. Remember how they once treated you, but you will, and the beautiful thing is, by then you won't even need their validation. You won't need their approval. Because you will have already won, you will have built yourself into someone they can't ignore, and no amount of fake support can change the fact that when you needed them, they weren't there. This is how life works. People are quick to leave when you have nothing, but they rush back when they see your glow. The same people who laughed at you will one day wish they had stood beside you. And when that day comes, you won't seek revenge. You won't waste your time proving anything to them. You will simply keep moving forward, because your success will speak for itself. No matter how much the world tried to suppress you, no matter how many people ignored your potential, the truth is, your gift is too big to stay hidden forever. You may feel unseen now. You may feel like no one truly recognizes what you bring to the table, but trust this. When the time is right, your gift will make room for you. It doesn't matter how long it takes. It doesn't matter who tried to hold you back. What's meant for you cannot be stopped. The world can try to overlook you, but it can't erase what's inside of you. You were given something rare. Maybe it's your wisdom. Maybe it's your creativity. Maybe it's your ability to inspire others. Whatever it is, it wasn't meant to be hidden forever. Your time in the shadows is temporary, and when the moment arrives, when your gift is finally revealed, it won't just change your life, it will change the lives of others. Because what you have inside of you isn't just for you. It's meant to impact the world. So keep going. Keep sharpening your skills, keep growing, keep believing. Because one day, people won't just recognize your gift. They will wonder how they ever missed it in the first place. You weren't meant to live an ordinary life. You weren't meant to be just another face in the crowd. Everything you've been through, every hardship, every setback, was preparing you for something much greater. There were times when you doubted yourself, times when you wondered if you would ever make it out of the struggles you faced. But the fact that you're still here, still fighting, still standing, is proof that you were never meant to be defeated. Your time is coming. The doors that once seemed locked will open. The opportunities that once felt out of reach will come to you effortlessly. The people who overlooked you will suddenly take notice, and when that moment arrives, you must be ready. This is not the time to doubt yourself. This is not the time to shrink back. This is the time to prepare, to stay focused, to keep pushing forward. Because what's ahead of you is bigger than what's behind you. Everything you've been through was leading you to this moment. The pain, the setbacks, the loneliness, it all had a purpose. You may not have understood it while it was happening, but one day you'll look back and realize that nothing was wasted. The struggles that once felt like they were breaking you were actually making you stronger. The people who doubted you were only fueling your fire. The things that tried to stop you were actually setting you up for your biggest breakthrough. You are not forgotten. You are not invisible. Your time is coming, and when it does, the world will see what was always inside of you. So keep going, keep believing, keep preparing, because your story is far from over. In fact, it's only just beginning.